Hello everyone, my name is Gajendra Deshpande and I am working as assistant professor at KLS Cooked Institute of Technology, India. Today I will be presenting a talk on investigating digital crimes using Python. So, in today's talk, I am going to discuss about introduction to digital crimes, digital forensics, then the process of investigation, collection of evidence, investigation of acquisition media using the Screenshot module, investigation of emails, investigation of embedded metadata, then finally the conclusion. Now let us look at some statistics related to cybercrime. So the Internet Crime Report for 2019 released by USA's Internet Crime Complaint Center IC3 of Federal Bureau of Investigation has revealed top 4 countries are victims of internet crimes. So USA has more than 60,000, then UK more than 93,000, Canada more than 33,000, and India more than 27,000 crimes have been reported. Now note here that these are just the reported numbers and unreported numbers are much higher. According to RSA report of 2015, mobile transactions are rapidly growing and cyber criminals are migrating to less protected soft channels. So your gadgets, smartphones, mobile phones are treated as soft channels because many people are not aware of various security settings in those devices. According to report by Norton in 2015, an estimated 113 million Indians lost about rupees 16,558 on an average to cybercrime. So that's roughly around $250. According to an article published by Indian Express on 19th November 2016, over 55% millennials in India are hit by the cybercrime. So millennials are those people who are born between 1995 and 2010. So they are more gadget friendly people. They use gadgets very heavily. So obviously they are targets of cybercrime. Then a recent study by Checkpoint Research has recorded over 150,000 cyber attacks every week during COVID-19 pandemic. So there has been an increase of 30% in cyber attacks compared to previous weeks. So the reason here is that many people have lost their jobs and many people have also experienced the pay cuts. So pay cuts is the one of the many reasons for employees unhappiness, and people who have lost the jobs, they find it easy to commit cybercrime and earn money. Let's first define forensic science, then we will define what is digital forensics. So forensic science is the use of scientific methods or expertise to investigate crimes or examine evidence that might be presented in a court of law. Cyber forensics is investigation of various crimes happening in the cyberspace. So examples of cyber attacks include phishing, ransomware, fake news, fake medicine, extortion, and insider frauds. So during COVID-19 pandemic, you might have observed that many fake news have been circulated during with respect to the cure and vaccines related to COVID-19. And also, one more major problem is the insider frauds. So insiders are those people who are within the organization. They have access to the confidential information and they use this information against the organization. According to Digital Forensics Research Workshop, that is DFRWS, the digital forensics can be defined as the use of scientifically derived and proven method toward the preservation, collection, validation, identification, analysis, interpretation, documentation, and presentation of digital evidence derived from digital sources for the purpose of facilitating or furthering the reconstruction of events found to be criminal or helping to anticipate unauthorized actions shown to be disruptive to planned operations. So if you look at the definitions here, there are multiple aspects covered. The important aspect is that it covers the steps in digital forensics investigation: process. Then it also says that the importance of reconstruction of events in creating the uh, crime scene and finding the evidence, and finally it also emphasizes on the presentation of the evidence in the court of law. So these are the 6 steps which every digital forensics investigator needs to follow, which you have already seen in the definition. So first one is identification, then collection, validation, examination, preservation, and presentation. So let us look at these steps in detail. So the first step is the identification. Whenever a crime happens, investigating officer may get a call, and when the investigating officer visits the crime scene, he needs to first identify the objects which he needs to seize. So he can seize anything related to the crime, or whatever he feels that one's object may have the evidence. So with respect to digital crime, he needs to acquire and seize relevant devices, relevant objects. Say for example, laptops, mobile phones, and various devices such as CD drives, DVD drives, USB pen drives, and so on. The next step is collection. So once the different objects have been identified, the important step is to collect the evidence. Now, whenever the investigating officer is collecting the evidence, he needs to first collect the most volatile evidence first. Then he needs to collect the least volatile evidence. So there is an order defined in the standard procedure in case of live forensics, which evidence needs to be collected first. So one example what we can take is the investigating officer may collect the evidence from the RAM first. Then he can collect the data from the hard disk, because if you turn off the system, then it will change the system status, and there's a possibility of losing the information or evidence. Okay, so, and one more important point the investigating officer keep in mind is that he needs to note down the status of the system. If the system is on, he should not turn off it. If system is off, he should not turn on it, because turning on and turning off the system will change the system status. It will alter few system files, and when this modification happens, there is a possibility of losing the evidence. So he needs to note down the system status, and if the system is on, he needs to perform the live forensics. The next is validation. So what we do is we perform forensic process on the copy of the data. So there will be original data and there will be copy of the data. So he needs to compute the hash on both the data and verify that the copy and the original data are same. If there is a difference, then it means that the hash, if the hash is modified, then it's a clear indication that the evidence has been modified, or data has been modified, or there has been some tampering. The next is the examination. So this is very important step with respect to forensic activities. So here various tools can be used, maybe commercial tools or open source tools, to extract the information from various sources and analyze it. So your information can be extracted from the log files, can be extracted from the system files and various other sources. So you can write a code to examine the evidence, or you can use the ready-made tools. The next is the preservation. Now note here that preserving evidence is very important. So when you take into custody, when the investigating officer seizes any device, maybe hard disk or cables, he needs to keep it in appropriate anti-static bags, or he needs to keep it in Faraday bags, which will actually avoid the tampering of those devices. and the data needs to be stored in appropriate room temperature and in a locker. So data needs to be protected from unauthorized access by people and also from the environment. So environment may also play some role in altering the evidence. Okay. So it needs to be stored at appropriate place with appropriate protection in a locker. Then final step is the presentation. So if you have followed the standard procedure in previous all these 5 steps, then only it can be presented in the court of law and court will accept it as the evidence. But if there is a lapse in following the standard procedure, then court will not accept the evidence. So it is very, very important to follow the standard procedure led by the governments or law enforcement agencies so that the evidence can be accepted in the court. Now let us look at some Python packages related to digital forensic activities. So first one is the PyScreenshot, which is used to take the screenshot of an entire screen or a part of a screen. Then QPRE, it is encode and decode MIME coded printable data. So MIME stands for multi-purpose internet mail extensions. So using MIME, you can send and receive multimedia messages using email. The next is the mutagen. So it's a Python module to handle audio metadata. Then PyPDF2, it's a Python library which is built as PDF toolkit. Then next is PE file. So PE file stands for portable executable file. It's a multi-platform Python module to parse and work with portable executable files, and these are Windows operating system related files. Now the first package we will discuss is the PyScreenshot. So it tries to allow to take screenshots without installing third-party libraries. It is cross-platform but mainly useful for Linux-based distributions. It is available as a wrapper, so it can capture either whole desktop or an area. So it supports both Python 2.7 and Python 3 plus versions. So the drawback is interactivity is not supported and mouse pointer is not visible. Performance is not a target for this library because in forensic activities, it is important to find the evidence and not the performance. But you can make some settings and achieve the performance up to certain extent. So that we will discuss in some next slide. You can install PyScreenshot using Python 3 -m pip install below PyScreenshot command. So here we're installing PyScreenshot as a wrapper for below library. So there are many other libraries. You can install PyScreenshot as a wrapper over your favorite library. Now on the screen you are seeing the screenshot which actually takes the screenshot of the entire screen. So in the first step we're importing PyScreenshot as the image grab. Then we are using grab method, and once the grab method is executed, it needs to be saved in a image file. So we are saving it in fullscreen.png file. Now in this screen you are seeing the source code which actually takes the screenshot of a area of a screen. So it starts from x1 y1 to x2 y2. So you can see here in a grab method you are passing the parameter b box and equal to you are specifying x1 y1 and x2 y2 parameters. So it will take a screenshot starting from x1 y1 to x2 y2. Now this is about the performance of PyScreenshot module on various libraries. So you can see here that per call it is showing some milliseconds. So these are the time for taking 10 screenshots. Okay, now you can set child process is equal to 0, and when you set child process is equal to 0 you can observe that some packages are taking less time. So it will help you to select the appropriate library if you are worrying about the performance. Okay, so you can make some more settings. For example, set backend as a scrot and Maybe also you can set backend as MSS and child process as false. So you can make these settings to achieve better performance. Okay, so the next concept is email investigation. So in email investigation, we can see here that many people receive spoofed emails, and it is very easy to identify actually the spoofed email. Okay, so one important thing here is you can observe the from address, and you can also place the mouse cursor over the links which you receive in your fake emails or spoofed emails. So when you place a mouse cursor over the links, observe the status bar. Don't click on it, just observe the status bar. And when you observe it in status bar, it is showing the exact URL. And you can notice here that it is not from the original source. And if you are not using the generic email IDs like Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo, if you are using your organizational emails, then it is possible that you can configure SPF, that is Sender Policy Framework, and other things to avoid spoofing of emails. So this is a spoofed email you can see on my screen. It says that there is a billing information from Netflix, but I don't have any account in Netflix. And similarly, this is some email related to settling of some unclaimed sum of $15 million. So again, it's clearly a fake email. So you need to just ignore these messages. Now, the main goal of email investigation is that to identify the main criminal, then to collect the necessary evidences, then to present the findings and to build the case. The challenges in email forensics are the fake emails, spoofing, then anonymous re-emailing. So fake emails, we know that any people can directly send these emails, and in spoofing, it's actually sent as the original email, but actually you are not receiving the email from the legitimate source or from an authorized person. Although it looks like that you are receiving the email from the legitimate source, but in reality it is not. Then in anonymous re-emailing, it's a problem on the server side, so it needs to be rectified at the server. Now, techniques used in email investigation are header analysis, then the server investigation, then network device investigation. Now you can see some part of the code here. So actually what we are doing here is we are accessing the headers, body content, attachment, and other payload information of the email. So once we extract this information, we can do further analysis. Now this part of the code, what it does is it extracts the message body content by using get payload method, and it also checks the content MIME type so that it can handle the storage of the email properly. Now note here that in MIME what happens, MIME stands for multipurpose internet mail extensions, and it allows us to send or receive multimedia email messages. So when we say multimedia email messages, it may be images, it may be audio or video file, or some other content. So based on the goal of email investigation, we can either ignore some file types. So when we ignore some file types, or when we don't consider some file types, we can actually save a lot of space and also time. Then this is a code snippet which actually extracts the attachments from the emails. So all this source code you can find on tutorialspoint.com. So the link has been already shared in some of the slides. Now this is a code which is used to extract the message body of the email. The next is Metadata Forensics. Now, Mutagen is the Python module to handle the audio metadata. It supports various file formats, including MP3, OGG, and so on. Again, it's a pure Python library, so no dependencies outside the Python standard library. So it works with Python 3.6 plus versions. So you can install it using Python 3-m pip install mutagen command. So the screenshot what you are seeing on the screen, what it is doing here is that it takes any audio file as the input and guesses its type and returns the file type instance or none. Okay, so for example, here it is taking awk file as the input and it is returning the information of awk file, saying that it is awk verbis type and the length and also the bits per second. Now on this screen you are seeing two snippets. The first part says that the file function, it takes again any audio file, guesses its type and returns the file type or none. So it is almost same as the previous source code, but here in this case it is dealing with the flag type. Now on the right hand side, it is getting the information of a MP3 file. So it is getting the type and saying that it's MP3 file, its length and its bitrate. The next is the Pdf2 module, so which is actually used to extract the information from PDF documents. So again, it's a pure Python library, so no need of any other dependent libraries. So it is capable of extracting document information, that is metadata like title, author and so on, splitting the documents page by page, merging the documents page by page, cropping the pages, then merging multiple pages into single page, encrypting and decrypting PDF files. It is also a useful tool for websites that manage or manipulate PDFs. The next is PE file, that is portable executable file. Again, it's a multi-platform Python module to parse and work with portable executable files. Most of the information contained in the PE file headers is accessible, as well as all sections, details and data. The structures defined in the Windows header files will be accessible as attributes in PE instance. The naming of fields or attributes will try to adhere to the naming scheme of those headers. So only shortcuts added for convenience will depart from that convention. So PE file requires some basic understanding of the layout of a PE file. So with it, it is possible to explore nearly every single feature of PE file format. Now, some of the tasks that are possible with PE file are inspecting headers, analyzing sections data, retrieving embedded data, reading strings from resources, warnings from suspicious and malformed values, overwriting fields, packer detection with PID signatures, and PID signature generation. So the conclusion is that it is very important to follow the standard procedure laid by law enforcement agencies during the investigation process. Otherwise, evidence will not be admissible in the court. Then there are many open source as well as commercial tools for digital forensics, say for example NCase and so on. And learning to develop your own tool is always advantageous, because we can't wait for a particular feature to be included in the standard tool. So if a particular feature is not present in the standard tool, then you can directly write a small piece of code and achieve the goal. So that's why it is very important to learn and explore the possibilities of languages like Python to write your own tool with respect to forensics, or any other tool for that matter. Many tools written in Python are pure Python implementations, so you need not have to depend on any other tools. And one more point I would like to add here is that once the information is extracted, you can now use many artificial intelligence algorithms or machine learning techniques to analyze the information and generate the evidence. Thank you for attending my talk. So I'm ready to take questions if there are any. Thank you.